Hey everybody, so today we are going to score your 2014 stats FRQs 1 through 5. I have 3 documents on me. The first is, this is a Google form that I shared with you. I didn't know how to show the screen, so I just printed it so I can show you how to fill it out. I have the 2014 scoring guidelines from the College Board, and then I have my own answers that I did that I'm going to show you how to score. There are some important things I want to point out in the scoring guidelines, and this video might be a minute, so you might want to get your favorite beverage or pause it a few times during the video. Okay, I'm going to start out with question 1, and question 1, I have, these are my answers here. For the on-campus proportion, I have 24 out of 33, and for the off-campus proportion, I have 37 out of 67. I am going to let you guys know that there are going to be a few things during this video that make you angry, and that's okay. That's the whole point of doing this, is to find those little things so that you get full credit on the actual exam. In this case, this is not full credit. You guys might have the decimals here. That's also not full credit. The College Board says that they would like you to essentially correct E if the response correctly performs both calculations with work shown. Okay, I did not show my work, not as far as they are concerned, because I did not show this 17 plus 7 and this 25 plus 12. So here is what the solution looks like: 17 plus 7 and the 25 plus 12. I already know that's going to make you angry because that seems pointless. Like, everyone can do that, but I'm letting you know that's what they want. So for this one, maybe some of you guys out there put it. I will be so impressed if some of you put your work there. Essentially correct E if the response correctly performs both calculations with work shown. Okay, so if you did that, give yourself an E. Partially correct P if they correctly perform one of the 2 calculations with work shown. Both correct answers with no work shown, that's me. If you did exactly one, see, they give you so many outs though. You also get a P if you did exactly 1 instead of at least 1, but you had to show your work. And then answers reported as fractions rather than decimals are acceptable. That doesn't mean that's work though. That's still your answer. And then I, if you didn't do any of that. So what you're going to do is look at your own. You're going to decide, okay, for me this was a P because I did not show my work, and that's what the majority of us will be. And remember, I don't know how to flip to the screen, so I can't show you your Google form. But for me, I would select P on this one. I'm hoping that makes sense to you guys. Okay. Part B, responses. Okay, write a few sentences summarizing what the graph reveals about the association between residential status and level of participation among the 100 students in the sample. Okay, so here's mine. Mine might be a little better than usual because I'm the teacher, but actually, to be honest, I knew that you had to show your work in the other ones, but I was trying to make a point. Okay, so I made a statement about each one of the 3 groups. The group that does no extracurricular activities, I made a sentence. 1 and 2 or more. I forgot to put the 2 or more right here. Anyway, off-campus students are more likely. Okay, so notice I put this description word, more likely, to participate in 0 extracurricular activities at about 45%, which is greater than 28%. Okay, so I got my 45 from here and my 28 from there. On-campus students are more likely to participate in 1 activity at about 52%, which is greater than 37. So I subtracted that and subtracted that. On and off-campus students have a similar participation in, this should say 2 or more activities at approximately about 20% each. Okay, scoring this, it says essentially correct if the response correctly compares proportions between the two groups of students for at least 2 of the 3 categories. Okay, I did that because I did 3 categories. Partially correct if the response correctly lists proportions for the 2 categories but does not make an explicit comparison. So note, I'm underlining those comparison words. College Board loves these. Okay, and if you only compare between one of the 3 categories, then that's a P. I, if you do not meet the criteria with E or P. Okay, a response without any reference to percentages or proportions is scored at most P. So, for example, a response that attempts to compare counts. You don't have the totals, so you can't do counts. And a response that treats bar graphs as distributions of a quantitative variable lowers the score 1 level from E to P, P to I. I don't think any of us probably did that. I think I got an E for this one. So I am going to come back and mark myself an E on my Google form, which I did not print out. If I'm a student, I'm just doing it on the Google form because I'm smarter than the teacher and I'm sure I know in a video how to go back and show that on my screen, but I don't know how to do that. So this is what we're doing. Okay, hopefully some of you are laughing. Alright, and then last part here, part C. This is our standard conclusion to a chi-square test for association. Since our p-value of 0.23 is greater than, and I said any standard alpha we work with, 0.01, 0.05, 0.01, 0.05, 0.01, we fail to reject, so make sure you say you fail to reject. They should conclude that there's no association, so because I failed to reject, I wrote the null hypothesis out with context. Okay, E, if you have the correct conclusion in context, so that means no association with context, so you're talking about extracurricular activities, and provides a justification decision of that conclusion based on linkage to the p-value. So that's my greater than alpha there. Okay, you get a P if you don't have a conclusion, but you do the p-value, or if you do the conclusion correct, but missing justification. This is saying the same thing. Oh no. Okay, this is correct. Okay. So you've got no conclusion but correct p-value, and this is correct conclusion but no p-value. So one or the other. And if you say something like accepting the null hypothesis, they hate that. That's why we never say that. The highest you can get is a P there. I think I personally got an E. Okay. So I'm going to go back here into my Google form and hit E. I got 1 P and 2 E's. Okay, so I'm going to score myself on FRQ 1. Notice it says order of letters does not matter. So I got 1 P and 2 E's. It doesn't matter the order, just matters how many of them. So I got a 3 on this FRQ, which is good, you guys. A 3 is excellent. Be happy with a 3, please. We're looking for 2s. 3s are excellent. 4s, we're doing cartwheels. Okay, comments. What did you learn? Notice what made you mad and happy. Okay, so for me, I definitely had an emotional reaction to having to show my work on part A. So show work when combining values from a frequency table. Show work. Okay, so that's just my note to myself. Then as I'm doing this, I really need to make sure I show my work because College Board is going to be nitpicky about that. I might get the correct answer. I might know exactly what I'm doing, but if they can't tell, they're not going to give you credit. Okay. Number 2. Okay, so here's my number 2. Calculate the probability. 3 people of a group from 6 men and 3 women. We 3 women. Okay, so there's 3 women out of 9, and then after 1 is gone, 2 women out of 8, and another one's gone. 1 woman out of 7 gives me 0.012. I think in this case, almost everyone would show their work. I feel like they would want to show that dependence relationship, that decreasing denominator and decreasing numerator. Okay. It says essentially correct E if you correctly compute the probability and show work. Okay, so finally I showed my work, although I did because it was more complicated work. So FRQ, no, too many papers, Miss Helen. FRQ 2 Part A, I would give myself an E because I definitely showed my work and I got the correct probability. You guys are like, yeah, it's so easy for you. Okay. Okay. You get a P if you get the correct probability, but you do not show how it was computed. You correctly show how to do it, but don't carry the computation through correctly. So that means you did the work, but you got the wrong answer from your calculator. You get a P. And this is amazing. So if you did any of these things, you also got a P, even though those are completely wrong. So they're giving you the benefit of the doubt a little bit, saying any one of these works and answers are also a P, and then if you didn't get any of that, you get an I. Okay, sometimes they're nice. Okay, B. You're not going to like this one, just to let you know. Okay, so I said 1.2% chance is very small, lower than the standard alpha of 0.0, can't read this, lower than the standard alpha of 0.05. So there is reason to doubt the manager's claim that 3 people were selected at random. Okay, so you're going to have a couple of things here. First, you get an E if you state that the probability is small or insufficiently small. So what that means is like lower than 0.05, or you don't even have to say that. You don't have to compare it to a p-value. You can just say it's really tiny, it's really small. You're going to have to say something about its size though. So you're going to have some kind of size. Makes an appropriate decision consistent with the probability being small and does so in context. So appropriate decision is there is reason to doubt the manager's claim, and then I wrote context. Okay, you get a P if you compare it to the p-value and say there's reason to doubt the claim, but you don't write context. You get you state a significance level, like I did, and make a decision that is appropriate, but you don't explicitly compare the probability and the significance level. So I would get a P if I did not have this word lower in here, as very small, lower. If I did not have this directional component in here, I would have gotten a P. And otherwise states the criteria for an E, but does not explicitly make a decision. So they want you to really say, is there reason to doubt the claim? Is there not reason to doubt the claim? You have to kind of pick a side there. And then an I if it's neither of those. I got an E because I'm the teacher. That's funny. Because I had this keyword, which was comparison here. I made a decision and I put context. So, okay. Part C. This one, I said no. The dice process is independent and the random selection process is dependent. You can tell it's dependent because it's taking one out each time. essentially correct if the response answers no and states that the dice outcomes in the proposed simulation are independent and states that the genders of the selected convention attendees are dependent. The table below shows statements that should be considered equivalent to the required statements of independence and dependence. Okay, so I'll let you guys look at this. See if you used any of these wordings. If you did both, one from each of these boxes, that's an E. Also, if you state no and calculate the probability with independence as this, and then show that that's different from what you found in part A, that's also an E. You get a P if you state only that dice incomes are independent, or state only that the genders of the selected convention attendees are dependent but not both. It says otherwise, okay, so this is hard, but it says otherwise meets the criteria for an E but has poor communication. An example of poor communication is no because it selects with replacement. It isn't possible for the same person to be selected twice. There is an apparent shift between the two sentences from describing the simulation to describing the actual selection of people, but that is not made clear. Okay, this is just them being picky. I don't know what you guys did here, but probably not that. So for me, I think I get another E. Oh man. So on this FRQ, I got an E. Remember, I'm the teacher. I should get an E, which means I got a 4. If I had to put what I learned, for me, it was this directional language, making sure to really put comparison, directional language. You guys put your own thing, though. I'm going to stop commenting on that so you can do your own reflection. Okay. Number 3. Okay. Alright. A is essentially correct if you indicate use of a normal distribution and clearly identify the correct parameter values. Okay, so that means I put normal CDF, I have label, mean, and standard deviation there. Remember we talked about that in chapter 5. You can do a z-score calculation for this instead, but we probably won't. And then because of that continuity correction, you can use 140, 140.5, or 141. I think pretty much everyone is going to use 140 because normal distribution is continuous. So you can use 140, but you're allowed to use 140, 140.5, or 141. If you make a probability with justification on the empirical rule with this boundary, you can also get an E. You get a P if you provide only 2 of the 3 components listed above. I bet a bunch of you guys did not identify your correct parameter values, and so you'll get a P for that. And incorrect if you don't satisfy either of those. I have an E here. Okay. I'm going to stop with the Google form, you guys. I think you know how to fill that out now. I'm just going to go through anything interesting in the FRQs themselves. Okay, now for B, there's actually 2 ways to do B. First, you can find the probability. I suggest you actually find the probability with 3 trials. You can find it this way using normal CDF, but because you have an N of 3, you have to put the standard deviation over square root of 3. I wonder if half of the class even thought to do this. So, I just put a little arrow. Some of you guys probably carried out a test instead, where you have 140 minus 120 over 10.5 divided by the square root of 3 gives you your Z, and then you found the p-value with that normal, standard normal distribution, which gets the same answer. I want to show you guys, I left this up on my calculator, that these two calculations are right here with the scientific notation. Oh, come on. This is on my calculator. Yeah, can you do it? There you go. Okay. So this is the one with the 10.5 divided by square root of 3 in the standard deviation, and then this is the one with the standard normal, which is how we do a test. But notice they both gave you the same exact answer. You need to say that it's less likely specifically and context, and then notice I made those comparisons again. I used 3 days is probability of 3 days is less than that. Here's your 3 days, and here's your 1 day. So, okay, so this is part 3B. Where am I? Did I skip the? I did. Oh no, that's right. Okay. So you get an E if your response provides the correct answer of less likely. So you have to say less likely very specifically. I did here. Less likely. Okay. Okay, so there's two different ways. If you're like really smart and you know everything about sample distributions, you don't actually have to do any math. You could say it's less likely. You could say that because the distribution of the sample mean will have a smaller variability because you'll have that over square root of 3, but it's still centered about 120, you could say, you could use that. I don't know any of us that could actually think of that. Maybe you could. Let me know in your notes if you did. I'll be really impressed. I think most of us are probably going to provide the answer of less likely and then actually calculate it, which is what I did. And so correctly calculates the probability and then compares the probability, so I did that. If you calculate it but don't do the comparison, you get a P, and then an I is none of the above. So I got an E here. Oh, okay, now C. I already heard from a student who said that C was really challenging. I find C to be really challenging, but here's what I did. So the first thing I said was Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is 3 out of 5 days. And then it says none of them is Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, so I said 1 minus that to get the other days. So that's going to be 2/5, which is a Monday and a Friday. And then I took that to the 3rd power for the 3 weeks. Okay, and you get an E in this problem if you correctly calculate the probability and show your work, which I did. P if you get the correct probability and no work. If you use the multiplication rule and do so incorrectly, you get a P. Oh, nice. But incorrect if you have either of those. Oh, look. Okay. Okay. Question 4. Alright, so 4A. I actually gave myself a P on this one on purpose. The median is not affected by skew or outliers, but the mean is affected. Okay, this is probably exactly what most of you put. This is not good enough. So I know this might be where you get mad. One of those spots where you get mad. Again, the whole reason we're doing this. So you get an E for this. If you describe how skewness or outliers affect the mean or do not affect the median, okay, I did that. Make a conjecture about relevant characteristic of the distribution of incomes, such as skewness or an outlier. Okay, the thing I didn't do was I didn't talk about it being mean or median of reported incomes. So what I'm supposed to say is that since you're working with incomes, and I'll let you see the solution here. With a variable such as income, a small number of very large incomes could dramatically increase the mean, but not the median. So incomes are usually extremely skewed, with a lot of people having a low income and only a few people having a high income. Okay. And so because it's skewed, then the median would be affected. But we did not say anything about incomes, or incomes being skewed, so we got a P here. And I'm assuming most of everyone got a P there. It's okay. Okay, I also feel like you're either going to get a P or an I here. That's okay too. Let me explain why. First, you need to choose method 2. So this, even though this is one thing, there's 3 different things to grade. So here's your first thing to grade. Your second thing to grade is choosing method 2, and you have to identify a characteristic between method 1 and method 2. Okay, so essentially correct if the response chooses method 2 and includes a relevant characteristic of method 1 and a relevant characteristic of method 2. Okay, partially, if you choose method 2 and only say something about one of the methods, if you say something about both of the methods but you don't actually choose one, then you can get a P. Okay, so what I said was method 1 is voluntary response sample. It will be biased by those with strong opinions, and then I put higher incomes in this case. Method 2 takes a random sample, which will be more representative of the class and reduce bias. Okay, so that's my statement for that. I said I chose one, I said something about method 1, and I said something about method 2. So I said which of the methods, and then I compared the 2 methods. This is the part that I think no one did. Bless your hearts, love you. The effect of each method on the estimate. So I said method 1 will overestimate the sample mean. Notice I used this effect, this actual comparison word, because those with higher incomes will respond. So that means that the sample mean is going to look a lot bigger, because those people that make more money are going to be proud of themselves, and they're going to definitely respond. So it says essentially correct if you include the following 2 components. Incomes of responders may be different from the incomes of non-responders. So I said will be biased by those with strong opinions, because it's a voluntary response sample. And then it says indicates the biased sampling method may produce a misleading estimate conclusion about the mean income, including direction. So there's my overestimate word, including direction. If you have only one of those 2 things, you get a P, which I think most of you guys did, or you're going to get an I here, because a lot of you guys, I'm sure, completely skipped that. Like, you didn't even read that part of the directions. That just somehow escaped your vision. Okay. Now, actually, this is wrong. There we go. So I ended up with a 3 on this one. I think that this is an easy problem. That it's very, very easy to score very low. Most of you probably got PEI, if I had to guess, and you probably would have had a 2. Am I reading anyone's mind creepily at the moment? Okay, last one. This is your time to shine, people. We just did this. This is mean difference. This is match pairs. You have got this. Okay, there are 4 steps to score. The first step is your null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, and identifying the correct parameter. It does not give you any, like, you do not get points off if you did not state an alpha value, but you have to have equals 0, greater than 0, and identifying the parameter. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 is the conditions. Okay, in this particular problem, they're only counting on you doing the random condition and the large counts condition, because independence is weird in this problem, so they're not expecting you to even write that down, but I'm sure that you did. So you need to have the random condition. You need to say that 8 is less than 30, but the dot plot of differences shows no extreme skew or outliers. So making sure that you're looking at this one. We don't care about this. We care about the differences. Okay. Calculate. There's my calculate. Correctly calculates both test statistic and p-value with the work shown. So there it is. That's everything. And step 4 is the correct conclusion. I'm sure that you guys got a 4 on this one. This one might be your favorite. Okay. I know that video was 30 minutes. It was probably the most boring 30 minutes of your life. I'm hoping that you learned a few things about tiny little details that can boost your score. That is my absolute goal with this, is to make sure that you guys know what you need to write down to get as best a score you can. Remember, we're hoping for 2s on both of them. I'm thinking 2s on both FRQs will give you a 3 on the test itself. So I know you guys can do that. I'll talk to you soon. Miss you all. And bye.